And so we've seen it done before. Unfortunately, we know it will happen again, whatever the situation may be, and so the better we can all prepare and plan and kind of learn what our respective roles are, the better prepared we will be to keep our community safe. So appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Jennifer McGuire.
Thank you very much, Mayor and City Council members, for being here today. Today we're gathering here for this crucial City Council study session to discuss and explore our city's emergency management efforts. Before I begin, I do want to do a shout out to Ray Reardon, our director of our Office of Emergency Management, and his entire team for putting this together today. It's very professionally done, and really appreciate all the work that's gone into today to make sure we're very prepared. I also want to begin by acknowledging the exceptional teamwork displayed by our Emergency Management Organization, otherwise known as EMO staff, our field teams, and all city departments involved in responding to the 15 incidents since COVID. Their tireless efforts, dedication, and adaptability have been instrumental in protecting the health and well-being of our community. As we continue to navigate the evolving landscape of demonstrated during the pandemic. The role of the City Council in these efforts cannot be overstated. Your leadership is essential for continuity of government and maintaining a strong connection with our constituents. Your support, guidance, and communication with your constituents are vital in fostering trust and resilience within our community. In all aspects of emergency management, we must remain deeply committed to equity. It is our responsibility to ensure that the most vulnerable and burdened members of our community are not disproportionately affected by disasters. By incorporating equity considerations into our planning, response, and recovery efforts, we can create a more inclusive and compassionate city for all. Together, we have proven that we can effectively respond to unprecedented challenges. Now, today, let us build upon our successes and continue to strengthen our emergency preparedness, ensuring that our city remains resilient and ready to face whatever challenges may lie ahead. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ray Reardon, our director of our Office of Emergency Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Good morning, Mayor, council members, executive staff, and attendees. I'm Ray Reardon, the director of the Office of Emergency Management in the City Manager's Office. This month actually begins my 40th year in public safety in emergency management focus, and I'm humbled to be able to provide this training here today. First of all, I want to recognize that April is Earthquake Preparedness Month in the state of California. It is the 119th anniversary of the Great San Francisco 1906 earthquake, and we also want to welcome you to the new Emergency Operations Center. We want to definitely thank the residents who voted to pass Measure T in 2018 for this magnificent facility and the other support that we've received. For those new to this facility, just a couple operational tools. Restrooms are straight back down the hall back here. If there was an emergency, we definitely would want to meet out in the front lobby, the front parking lot, and we have check-in lists, so we'll check and make sure everyone's safe before we move on. We have an AED right here at the corner, a fire extinguisher as well, and we'll take a first aid kit out with us. Now, see, safety comes first in our effort here. This is the general structure of today's session. We've had our introduction. We'll start Module 1 with the comments here. And then Module 2 will be a scenario-driven exercise for you. To use the microphones, do not push the button at the top because there is no button at the top. There's this little red or green microphone. You touch that microphone, and it'll turn it on, and it'll turn white or green, and then you can communicate that way. You do have laptops in front of you so that you get the presentation. You don't have to turn around, look at the monitors, etc. So the presentation's there in front of you. You also have, as council members, you all have a binder of the materials here for today's program, so you're welcome to take those home with you, and that's your take-home gift from our operations so that you have the information you need to operate during an emergency. You may notice that your cell phones may not operate in here because sometimes we don't get signal. So if you do need to make sure your cell phone's operating, put it on Wi-Fi calling because that sometimes happens here. With that, we'll get into Module 1. The objectives for today's exercise, if you would open up your binder to the situation manual, the situation manual looks like this. It says attachment on the top. So it looks like this. If you open up to that and turn to page 4, and you'll see the objectives for today's exercise as well as on the screen. So we have 5 primary objectives of today. First is to review the emergency management. I'll just speak up. I have an oh, there we go. I do have an outside voice as well. We'll review the emergency management organization activations. We'll review the role of the elected officials during an emergency. That's all before, during, and after an emergency. We'll review the purpose of the disaster district offices that we've been working with council members on. And we'll review the city's effort to maintain a continuity of operations plan and how the emergency management organization functions. In the end, the focus of today is how the city is organized to respond to an event and how we communicate with you, the elected officials, so you can be successful in what your job is with your constituents. So Module 1 and Module 2 will take place. I'll lead Module 1. Lee and Jennifer will take on Module 2. So here we are talking about the 15 incidents that we've responded to since the COVID response. The purpose of the emergency management organization is to centralize and coordinate emergency response among all city departments. And as mentioned by the mayor, you see the cross-section of all the departments here in the room today. The activation of the organization could be virtual. It typically starts virtually to get an assessment, a situation status of what's going on, an engagement of what resources are deployed, and then a vision of what actions we need to take to support the field operations and the residents of the city. So it may start as an incident management team, a small group of people made up of portions of this team, and then we determine how big the organization needs to grow as needed. Tactical on-scene operations remain in the command of the departments out in the field, and we also have in the back row here, you'll see what we call Department Operations Center. It's a way for the departments to organize their resources as needed when these events occur. And their role is to support the field. Never do we take over the actions or responsibilities of those in the field. Here we have the pictorial, a visual representation of what the activations have been over the last 15 activations. It may start, as I mentioned, it starts as an IMT and grows. And when we look at a little schedule of when these events happen, it looks like 2023 was an easy year, but actually wasn't. We were still responding to cleanup from COVID-19, as well as we had winter storms in 2022 and in 2023, and atmospheric rivers that came through. We had events, we'd have everything from a fire to floods to inclement weather to actual an earthquake. We did activate for the tsunami warning of the Humboldt earthquake that took place in December of 24. In total of these 15 events, since COVID, we spent over 99 days as an active incident management team or EOC staff. In the field, 2 of our events actually lasted much longer when we had care and shelter operations going on in 2023 for the residents we had to evacuate out of the waterway. So out of those 15 events, 99 days or almost a week per event. So it's a lot of response going on. It's a lot of activation. What does this mean in the end is that we are building a sustainable muscle memory. We know how we need to pull people together. We know the resources we need to respond with, and we know the engagement of those who need to be involved. We no longer respond like we did in 2017. We've created a new culture, a new engagement. Collectively, Lee and I have led the emergency management organization over thousands of hours over these years since we've been here. The team collectively has accumulated tens of thousands of hours responding to a variety of emergencies. And as a team, we are striving to receive all the certifications identified by the California Office of Emergency Services, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. These certifications help us improve our response as we move further along. So with that, I have two questions, and I guess I'm going to pose these to you, Mr. Mayor, and then you can facilitate amongst the council members. Understanding that the city is faced with many hazards, and as we've recognized, the 15 activations since COVID, and the emergency management organization has been activated, what are some of the fears and concerns that you may have with understanding the number of hazards we have? And secondly, what kinds of information from this team would you expect so that you can communicate with the public and your constituents? Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Ray. These are good guiding questions. Let me turn to colleagues, see if anybody wants to reflect out loud on either of these questions. Vice Mayor?
Love to reflect on the first question, Ray. Being a survivor, I'll say, of the Loma Prieta earthquake, where our house in Summit Road was destroyed, the roads became instantly congested with people trying to get home and move around. So my fear or concern is, how will we be able to clear our roads so that our emergency responders could get through? I remember being on the road trying to get up to Summit Road, where my husband was, while he was coming down the hill trying to meet me somewhere, and I couldn't go anywhere on Highway 17. I just wanted to get out of my car and say, everybody get the hell out of the way, because I've lost everything and I need to know my husband's okay. Those are the days that cell phones weren't as active or available as they were today. Eventually I we met in Willow Glen, where his mother lived, and everything was fine, but to get there, it took me easily an hour because of traffic. So I worry more not about us personally, but about the emergency responders and how they're going to be able to get access in and around our roads. That's my biggest fear.
Right. Thanks, Vice Mayor. And Ray, I assume you're taking notes on these. Great. Other council members, anyone else like to chime in? Councilmember Campos?
Thank you. Completely agree with Vice Mayor's concern. And to add to the point of communication, my fear and concern is misinformation in this digital age that we face. We know that sometimes misinformation can spread quickly and easily, and so that's one of the things that I hope we can get ahead of.
Thanks. Councilmember Condelas?
Thank you. I'm, one of the fears that I have is obviously the loss of life that will happen, and I'm not referring to, the fires or extreme heat events, but a mass casualty event like an earthquake, or an event that we know that is not a matter of if it's going to happen, but when it's going to happen. And so that's like the biggest thing that I'm worried about. And so how do we protect not just the residents in our most vulnerable parts of our city that don't have a lot of access or evacuation routes, and how we're thinking about selfishly, areas of my district that are very constricted in and out. So that's one of the fears that I have, but I look forward to hearing the presentation, hopefully feeling a little bit better after this study session. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. Anybody else want to chime in? Councilmember Mulcahy?
Sorry. I think just one thing that's on my mind is District 6 is relatively flat, of course concerned overall, city issues and citywide. But we met and talked about, that where our evacuation locations are. But I think the other piece that might be helpful is, we have the creeks that run through District 6, for example, and we have lots of people who live both housed and unhoused along those. So just having a good sense for our office, sort of how to prep and what to look for, weather-wise, and, at what point do we experience flooding? I think that would be just sort of a general note, and maybe thinking about that district-wide for each particular district. What are some of the likely things to occur, and how can we best prepare and be sort of watchful of that?
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to chime in? Councilmember Casey?
Just quickly, our district is surrounded by a lot of county land, and just concerned about the coordination between us and the county. If something were to happen, just getting a bird's eye view of how that works out would be helpful.
That's a great point. Okay, great.
With District
Councilmember
7,
Dewan? Yeah, go ahead.
so I know that with WMD, mass casualty, earthquake, or flood, we tend to have lack of resources. How do we sustain our police department and firefighters in order for a long event? Right now, we don't have that particular program. For example, the fuel at any station will last in an emergency probably less than 2 days. There's no plan for food or water to sustain our public safety. And within our public safety facilities, where majority of residents will congregate for help. And if we don't have that plan, then our first responder cannot respond to emergency. Those are the things that I'm interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good list. Everybody had good things to add. I'll throw 3 out, and I don't know that we'll cover all of them today, but I'm particularly interested in preparation. I think we all know what we're supposed to do, but actually doing it is much harder. It's good to see our CERT manager here today. I'll be honest, I haven't checked my grab-and-go kit out in the garage. I don't even know if it's supposed to be in the garage, but I haven't checked it in probably 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure some of the things need to be tossed and replaced. And I know what I'm supposed to do, but I haven't done it. So preparation, and how do we actually get our community to take the steps that are needed and maintain that prepared stance is a big bucket of questions and concerns for me. Another is prevention, and we can't prevent every disaster emergency, obviously. Yet, for fires and floods, for example, there are a lot of things we can do to reduce fuel load or get vegetation out of the creeks, better monitor and coordinate with other agencies and jurisdictions. So the sort of prevention, mitigation up front. So all the stuff we can do before is the most valuable, but I think also hard because you don't feel that sense of urgency and an emergency response. I know we do a lot there, but I'd love to push us and learn more about what else we could be doing or how we could do it better. And then finally, third category for me is really, I think Councilmember Campos spoke to a little bit, communication during a crisis. What should we actually expect in terms of how much communication will be possible in different scenarios if the grid is down, if there are widespread fires, if physical infrastructure, fiber optic cables are severed? What does that actually mean? Are people still getting text messages? Are you able to call them? Are we just sitting in our neighborhoods waiting for days, wondering what's happening, and then how does that play out? So those are the 3 categories on my mind where I feel like the council would benefit from knowing more and maybe could actually be helpful in practice. Okay, so I think we captured a bunch of good feedback and questions. Unless anybody else has another burning comment or question, I think we can throw it back to Ray.
Great, thank you very much. I did track the questions here, and as we get into the module 2 and describing the operations of the emergency management organization, we'll be sure to hit on those key points so we address the questions as we go through in the tabletop exercise. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen, who's going to describe a little bit more detail about your role as elected officials and this function of what we're calling a disaster district office. Karen?
Thank you, Ray. Once again, my name is Karen Chung, and I am the Resources and Community Planning Coordinator for the Office of Emergency Management. And just wanted to put it out there that our office had the opportunity to meet actually with some of the council members just last week, and throughout the time period from our last study session in 2023 to really go over the Disaster District Office operational guide with you and staff. And we still continue with your respective staff today to ensure that the planning efforts are still contained with the specific council district needs. So what is a Disaster District Office? This is mainly an expansion of the current roles that our council district office has in a disaster setting, very much like how the city expands their roles during an emergency, which, as Ray has mentioned, you'll learn more about during the next module. Our disaster district office can be a physical or even remote site, depending on the type of emergency, community needs, availability of resources, and the safety for staff and our public. Some examples can be a satellite or field office placed nearby communities that are impacted. And during the COVID-19 response, we set up a virtual space where community members can go online to look for different community resources or even call into a call center to ask questions of where to find the resources. A disaster district office is not a responding entity in the city. The real purpose is really to provide a space for council members to ensure essential government functions can continue during disasters, such as policy development and the approval or ratification of a proclamation of a local emergency. And most importantly, to maintain that communication with the community during disasters to ensure critical information is provided to the public and also unmet needs are communicated back to the city's emergency management organization. So on the next slide, we're going to go over the Disaster District Office activation flow chart. And before I begin, I just wanted to let you know there should be a large handout available, so it's much easier to read and see for the council members. And for our exercise participants, it is also in our situation manual on page 9, if that's a little bit easier to read instead of from the presentation on the computer. So I know there's a lot to take in from this flow chart. So we're going to just start from the top going down. And so for the Disaster District Office phases, there are 4 phases listed here: prepare, monitor, watch, and activate. And as you can see under each section, there's also activation levels listed as well. This corresponds to the activation levels of the emergency management organization. This is placed here to show where things will be during the Disaster District Office phases in line with the emergency management organization. So for each section, I'll be going over also the associate council members' roles before, during, and after disaster to better understand how, when, and where to activate the Disaster District Office. So in the first phase, or the top section, prepare, this is how what we would call business as usual or blue skies. This is a great opportunity to promote and empower the community and staff to be prepared, such as reviewing and updating emergency plans, policies, or even our go kits and supplies, completing trainings, and conducting community outreach. In the next phase, the monitor phase, or the yellow section of this flow chart, this is where an incident may have occurred, for example, an earthquake that's a 4.0 or lower magnitude. This is where certain key city staff, city and council staff may be identified to monitor and be alert on this incident, just to see if it can escalate or de-escalate. Communication is very critical during this stage to ensure all key players are on the same page of what is going on, what actions have already been taken, and what key things need to be addressed next. And in this section, you'll see on the right side of the flow chart, a communication feedback loop. Our key players are our emergency public information officer, the emergency management organization, and this individual can be served as a city council liaison, and also our city council as well. As information is being provided from our emergency public information officer, we share that information to city council through our city council liaison, and vice versa. As we receive information from the public through city council, it will be shared back to the emergency management organization as well. In the next phase, the watch phase, or the orange section of the flow chart, this is where the incident is escalating and has the potential for community impacts. So for example, aftershocks are becoming more often and potentially severe with 4.0 or higher magnitude. This is where resources may be limited, assistance may be needed from neighboring cities, and we have two major questions we have to ask ourselves. Is the disaster district office needed at this point to support the community? And some of the questions we want to think about is assessing those community impacts of what have already occurred and what may occur in the future. And can the council district still function as the regular council district office? The next question we want to ask ourselves also, is there a proclamation of a local emergency happening? If we answer no to one of these questions, we stay in that watch phase and continue to monitor the incident. If it's a yes to both of these questions, then we move on to our activate phase. And I also want to make a note that, as you can see in this orange phase, you'll notice that there's 2 activation levels for the emergency management organization listed here. And that's because with activation phases, including the disaster district office, activations can be fluid and are dependent on the severity of an incident and the impacts it may cause for the community. And so, as mentioned before, if it escalates or de-escalates, it can move up or down from this flow chart. In the last phase, the activate phase, or the red section of this flow chart at the bottom, this is where we have made the decision to open and operate the disaster district office, as well as approving or ratifying the proclamation of a local emergency. And this is also where, at this point, all city staff are asked to support the incident. They may even come here to our emergency operations center to support the incident. And our city council staff may be asked to go and open and operate the disaster district office. In terms of activation, council members and the emergency operations center director or their respective designees can make the decision to activate the disaster district office depending on what information we have at hand. Once the disaster district office is open and operational to the public, once again, we want to make sure that our emergency public information officer is aware to share that information, so we would refer back to that communication feedback loop in the watch phase to ensure all consistent information is being shared. In terms of where to activate, as mentioned before, this can be a physical or remote site, but if it is a physical site, there are predetermined locations identified within each council district where it could be fitting to open a disaster district office within and outside the respective council district office as needed, depending on the impact. As of date, disaster district office has not been activated in the city of San Jose, but to remain resilient and prepared, it's still important to continue our planning efforts of all the disaster district offices. Thank you.
So as noted, we have yet to act during COVID when we were communicating frequently. So even out of these 15 activations that we had since COVID, the primary activity has been remote or direct communication with the council member if the event is happening in their community. So that's how we maintain that communication. Are there other questions from the council on whatever has been presented so far? Okay. So going forward here at this point, we'll transition to what we're calling a tabletop exercise. And what I'd like to do is, if you please look at, again, your situation manual, the attachment that's in your handouts there. On page 6, we have some exercise guidelines. I'm going to point out the 4th bullet. It says here, in order to facilitate our dialogue, you're going to hear representation around the room of roles and responsibilities. And during this period of time, we ask that the council member, each council member and the mayor have 2 interruptions available to them. And during the study session, then we ask that you make that question or comment by raising your hand. The mayor will recognize you. And once the mayor and the council members have used their 2 interrupts, we'll allow the others to get their 2 interrupts, and then we'll give everybody another 2. So just a little round robin of activity there, just to try and keep this facilitated so we finish on time. So I hope that was clear, and if not, we'll process through it. With that, we're going to, I'm going to turn it over to Lee, who's going to talk about the module 2 here of the exercise, initiating with the continuity of operations.
Thank you, Ray. Just as we get into Module 2, want to welcome everyone here and go back to Jennifer's comments and really thank Ray and his team for where this organization is today. As someone who was in the EOC during the 2017 Coyote Creek floods, where we were then versus where we are today as an organization in the community around emergencies is quite different. And obviously, and I would say unfortunately, a lot of us have had a lot of experience in the EOC over the last few years because of a variety of events, but really Ray and his team and the leadership that has gotten us here and preparedness, so thank you for that. As Ray mentioned, we're going to go through a few different things today. On the tabletop exercise, I wanted just to say one thing that we've heard a lot about today is just planning and preparedness. Those are 2 really important things as an organization that and around this body of work that continues to need to happen. The tabletop exercise, I will say, we just had one in here 3 weeks ago. This room actually looks a lot different when it's set up for an emergency. But we just went through a very large-scale tabletop exercise with Jennifer as head of the EOC that day. This is going to feel and look a little bit different. It's a window in for you guys to see what it looks like. Consider it IKEA directions to build furniture. There's some pictures, but not a lot of detail. You're going to walk away with more questions today, and quite frankly, that's great because we want you to follow up with Ray and his team or other people that you see here, because the more we ask questions, the more we have conversations, the better off we're all going to be. But it is, you're not walking away with the ability to write a thesis, and that is okay for today. One of the things that is very important in emergency management work is the planning, and there are a lot of plans. One of those is the continuity of operations plan for the city. I would just say above that, there is a larger emergency operations plan for the whole city. The council adopted ours, what we call a base plan, last year in 2024. That base plan lays out the larger comprehensive strategies, structures, and frameworks of how we respond to an emergency. Beneath that, there's annexes, and that's more detail, more like implementation plans. Those revolve around damage assessment, debris removal, which is very important to the vice mayor's point about how we're going to remove all this debris when something large happens so people can move around. Evacuation annex, mass care annex, as well as recovery, and then communications, very extensive communications annex. We also have joint emergency action plans, one with Valley Water that's very important, that was really born out of 2017. So there's an awful lot of plans and annexes. The importance, all of which is once a disaster starts, if we are planning on a large scale, we have already failed. We need to be able to pull things off the shelf and respond accordingly. Doesn't mean that there's not planning as part of that, which we will get into in the EOC exercise, but a large amount of that needs to happen ahead of time. One of those documents is our continuity of operations plan. And that ensures that essential services and functions continue with minimal disruptions, and it applies across the organization. Every department has their own COOP plan, even the attorney's office, clerk's office, retirement services has their own COOP plan, and then a larger one. We as an organization adopted ours last year in March of 2024, and really that is about continuing to provide services during an emergency. The EOC actually helps with the implementation of that, prioritization of some of that. Of the 264 programs that the city has, some of those might be okay to be shut off for a while depending on the event. Others we may need to scale up. The wastewater facility, which some of you have had the opportunity to visit and go out, that obviously is very core in any emergency that we'll face, and maintaining that, ensuring that we maintain operations of that facility. There's also garbage service. Just as a story, in 2021 or 2022, sorry, with the atmospheric rivers coming in, and one was supposed to generate about 80-mile-an-hour winds. One of the companies that we rely on garbage service for was on the brink of a strike and maybe not going to pick up garbage material that day. We needed to bring that in, use our continuity of operations plan, and really work with the union and everyone else to figure out what we were going to do with those garbage cans the next day with 80-mile-an-hour winds to make sure garbage wasn't, thrown across the city. To Councilmember Dewan's point, police and fire, they have huge continuity of operations plan. And the logistics section of the EOC would help with that. Unlike the private sector, where if a customer can go to a business and the door's closed, they will find other means. They don't have those means when it comes to local government. So the continuity of operations plan is very important as a disaster strikes, to ensuring that those who can care for themselves, we maintain those services so that the EOC and our first responders can focus on those most in need and those most impacted by the emergency. So locally, we have more than a few faults running through our area. The San Andreas Fault is more than 30 million years old. It spans 800 miles throughout the state of California and is about 10 miles deep. And as the Vice Mayor mentioned, the latest largest event was in '89, known as the Loma Prieta earthquake. We also have the Calaveras Fault that runs parallel to the Hayward Fault, which I'll mention in a second. The largest earthquake on that in past memories was in '84, centered in Morgan Hill, and was 6.2. And then the Hayward Fault, the largest earthquake being in 1868, being 7.0. Should be noted that all three of these faults are overdue for a major event. All three are have the capacity to generate over a 7.0 earthquake. In addition to that, we have a variety of little faults. Some going right through the heart of Almaden, District 9, District 10, as well as District 2, up through Districts 5 and 4. And while these are smaller events, or smaller faults, they would have an impact if we ever had a larger event with other seismic activity. So on to the EOC, and before we start our tabletop exercise, I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the EOC. And again, if there was ever a major event and we were activated, this room would look very different. You see the colored vests. Each team kind of has its own table. People are spread out. It's actually never this quiet. Actually, I haven't been in this room an awful lot because it's brand new, but I've never actually heard it this quiet. It serves as a hub for coordinating the emergency response, providing situational awareness to those in the field, those that need to make decisions, as well as all of you. It's a very important role in resource coordination, as well as supporting the continuity of operations plan, depending on the emergency. The roots of the EOC is really structured in a structure called the Incident Command System. What that does, it provides clear chain of command throughout the EOC and the organization. And the beauty of that and the beauty of this model is we can scale this to accommodate where we are trying to focus in an organization, and it can be relatively small. Case in point, we had a small EOC a few weeks ago with the last atmospheric river of like less than a dozen people monitoring. At the height of COVID, we had over 900 employees in the EOC. So this can be scaled to accommodate whatever we are responding to in this structure. I was cut off. We're going to go through really quickly and just want all of the section coordinators to be able to introduce themselves and give a little bit of a view of what they do before we get into the exercise. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite sections, the ops section. So our ops section coordinator, introduce themselves.
Matt Lesh, I'm the Operations Section Coordinator, and you'll see a lot of red vests here today, and you'll see a lot of red vests in most operations, because really we are, and this is like the tip of the iceberg, what you would see towards what their organizations are underneath them. And so it is the brawn of which the director has to apply towards different things. And we are providing her the information so that we can then spread it out to the community, but also that they can then take action. And we're also to facilitate and provide options to a problem set with the various teams. And as we go through the different pieces of the exercise, you'll see, and we'll have the different areas talk about what work they'll do and how they'll react in particular scenarios, because I think we're the ones who will be presenting and providing the action to many of the questions that you have.
Thanks, Matt. Planning Section Coordinator.
Thank you, Lee. My name is Jay McCamus. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Emergency Management during the day, and at night, often I'm on the second shift. So at night, I often play the role as the Planning Section Coordinator. The role of the Planning Section Coordinator is all things information. The collection of information, situational analysis, dissemination of information, and most importantly, if you look up at the wall over here to your right, you'll see what we call the action planning feed. That is a cycle that's created every shift to manage that information. The flow of information, the documentation that is required for every event, so that we can track decisions that are made and identify objectives and solutions to those objectives.
Thank you, Jay. Before I go on to the next, I did want to highlight that because I did say a bulk of planning happens before we get into this room. And Jay mentioned the emergency action plan. So we have a base emergency operations plan. We have these annexes. We need to get down to a very tactical level by shift. So when we respond, we have a blue and a gold shift. Based off of some of the assumptions and how we respond, the blue shift is always first in. Part of their first work is creating the first emergency action plan. So using the base plan, the annexes, and what we know of the disaster, creating a 12-hour plan. So each team that comes out as the blue shift is rotating out after responding, they're handing over an emergency action plan to the next shift to go ahead and implement, while Jay or another planning section coordinator is starting to work on the next 12 hours at a very tactical level. So there's always a planning function at a tactical level going on as we go ahead and respond to these events. I'm going to turn and ask our Finance and Administration Section Coordinator to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Maria Oberg, and my normal job is Director of Finance, but during an activation, I run the Finance and Administration Section. And, not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes we wear these green masks. We're not the ones who are going to pull people out of creeks or under debris. We'll leave that for the heroes here, who are more of the sprinters. We're the more of the marathon runners. We're aimed at long-term fiscal recovery for the organization, and together with the recovery unit also for the area as a whole. So we have 4 main tasks. One is obviously cost tracking. We track everything we spend on any response. Even if it's not a presidential declaration, we will still keep track of it. We do timekeeping of people, our staff, volunteers, because they count towards our cost share, and also of equipment. That's a very often overlooked item, but our equipment does have time cards, so we can get reimbursed potentially from FEMA and the state for that if a declaration is made. We also run purchasing. During an activation, some rules are eased a little when it comes to public procurement, so we assist with that. To the earlier points made by council members and the mayor, from a prevention standpoint and planning, we already have several emergency contracts ready on standby that we can call on in case of an emergency. And then one item that's often forgotten but very important is our risk management section. We handle not just property insurance claims, but also workers' compensation. So during an excavation, we coordinate with Human Resources Workers' Compensation, because unfortunately, especially in an earthquake or others where there's debris removal and people work long shifts, accidents do happen and injuries do occur.
Thank you, Maria. Up next, the logistics section coordinator.
Good morning, everyone. Walter Lynn. I am normally the day job is the Public Works Deputy Director. I manage 3 divisions, the Facilities Management, Fleet Management, and the Radio Communications divisions. That is a great lead-in in terms of knowledge and familiarity to help with the logistics section, as that is the branch of the EOC that assists other branches in getting resources, personnel, the needs for whatever is happening at that time. Many of the different roles that we play is to provide the resource needs that could be personnel and services. In particular, just for example, getting PPE and other types of services, rental services, et cetera, whether it's for COVID or the floods or any type of wildfire scenarios. We're here to assist in providing those types of resources to everyone. That includes either in-house resources that we have or contractual resources and supplies and equipment. So we get whatever anyone needs, and we vet that process through to make sure that it's proper. In case there is a mutual aid request to the county, we are also the main liaison to make those requests and coordinate that activity or that resource to be provided to the city as well.
Thanks, Walter. And then last but not least, I want to have our EOC director for this exercise introduce herself, the role, and also the teams. As you can see, there are other direct reports that have very important roles, and they're included in the management section.
Great. Good morning, Jennifer Shembry, Deputy City Manager, and in this functional exercise, I'm serving as the EOC Director, and I will have that role along with Lee and in very close communication with Jennifer, the City Manager. So the EOC Director has the overall responsibility of the EOC function. We ensure appropriate staffing, working to make sure that we have backups if needed, and that the EOC is functioning effectively, managing the emergency. Acting as a leader, making various decisions, coordinating activities, communicating with various stakeholders, and approving objectives that we talked about in the action plan. So with that, I'm happy to introduce the sections in the various coordinators in the management section. We'll start with the liaison branch, with Angel.
All right, good morning, Angel Rios, and I'm the liaison branch coordinator. And some of the key functions of this branch starts with interagency communication, and that really involves facilitating communication and coordination between the incident command and external agencies, ensuring that information is shared and that concerns are addressed effectively. Also information exchange, kind of collecting and disseminating information to and from assisting agencies. Another function is problem identification, monitoring and addressing inter-organizational problems or conflicts that may arise and bringing them to the attention of the incident commander. Relationship building, during a crisis, as you can imagine, having the relationships across agencies is so important. So kind of working through any conflicts that may arise kind of in real time. And then everything leading up to resource coordination and brokering of resources, right? How we share resources, how we give, how we take, that kind of a thing, how we resolve conflict in that process. And again, doing all that in real time. And at the end of the day, it's really about communication, both internally and externally from a liaison perspective.
Thank you, Angel. So we'll move to the Emergency Public Information Officer, Carolina.
Carolina Camarena, my day job is Director of Communications in the City Manager's Office, and during an emergency, I am the Emergency Public Information Officer. In a nutshell, the Emergency Public Information Branch is responsible for delivering timely and accurate life-saving information in multiple languages.
Great, thank you. And Joe, Safety Officer.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Gregory. In my normal job, I'm the Division Manager of Workers' Compensation, Health, and Safety within the Human Resources Department, which is a good connection straight into being the Safety Officer for Emergency Operations Center events. So my team is responsible for real-time hazard analysis and standing up training content, code of safe practices, identifying PPE needs, coordinating with the different branches, and making sure that the responders in the field are taken care of. And our other primary responsibilities, making sure that the responders that are actually in this room are taken care of, both logistically and from a safety standpoint. And one of the main things that we also look at is people's mental wellness. Obviously, these are extremely stressful events, so making sure that they're being cycled out or they're being able to have space to calm down and take care of themselves while they're responding is one of our big focuses.
Thank you, Joe, and I appreciate you mentioning that. I was going to say that that's a really important thing as the EOC director, is also to make sure that everybody in this room is also taken care of, because it's also a very stressful job, and the safety officer is a key component of that. And last, our access and functional needs coordinator.
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Andrea Aguiar. I am, in my day job, the racial equity manager in the Office of Racial and Social Equity. And in an emergency, I am the access and functional needs coordinator. And what, in summary, that role plays is ensuring the safety and well-being of individuals with disabilities, elders, and others with access or functional needs during an emergency. And my primary responsibility is to coordinate the preparedness, response, and recovery efforts and that accommodates those populations. And again, this role ensures that an emergency response is inclusive, equitable, and effective in preventing individuals with access and functional needs, especially the most vulnerable, and is what our city manager, Jennifer McGuire, kind of led with, that from being the most vulnerable, from being left behind, and that folks are not disproportionately affected during a disaster.
Thank you, everyone. And one that we don't have here today, because it's not part of the exercise, is the recovery section coordinator. That is something that we would activate very early on in any disaster, so we can start thinking about recovery and planning for it at a tactical level the second we're responding. It is not part of today's exercise, so that individual is not here, but Rosalind Huey serves as our recovery section coordinator. So as you can see, the EOC is all about providing an organizational structure, resource management, and planning. It's also about the collection of information and sharing communication across the entire organization, which is really important. We've had questions in the past: do we activate our EOC too often for some of these events? And I do want to highlight, we don't believe so. It's actually very good that we activate at the frequency we do, from a planning perspective and a training perspective always, so that we can practice, but also sharing information across an organization, not knowing what that event may or may not be. And I do want to highlight two recent disasters as a part of that, and the importance of sharing and centralizing communication, both being fires. The Lahaina Maui fire, where that island decided not to activate their emergency operations center until it was too late, and police and fire did not have the same information. And as a result, hundreds of people were given wrong information and ultimately died in that disaster. Case in point, the Los Angeles fires, much larger events, the death toll being remarkably smaller because of early activation and sharing of communication across a number of agencies, number of departments, as well as public safety agencies, to be able to evacuate people in a safe and timely manner. So while the total devastation of that fire is much larger than the Maui one, then early activation and information sharing saved thousands of lives compared to what happened in Maui. And so we do follow a very similar set of guidelines where we activate early and often. All right, so as we get into the tabletop exercise, it shouldn't be a surprise, but it is an earthquake scenario. So I am going to push click, which is you'll be able to see on the slide a simulation while I read the scenario that we're all under, and then we will start. So envision a blustering day in San Jose when suddenly the ground beneath us starts to shudder. A massive 7.2 earthquake erupts along the Hayward Fault, and the city is gripped by the overwhelming power of nature. In the first few minutes, the tremor intensifies rapidly, and the earth shakes heavily beneath our feet. Buildings sway violently, glass shutters, and the deafening sound of tearing concrete and crashing objects fills the air. Panic sets in as the people of San Jose instinctively seek to cover under tables, door frames, or beneath sturdy structures that they can find. Clinging to those makeshift shelters, they brace themselves for the relentless shaking and praying for the turmoil to cease. As residents confront this terrifying situation, they must remember the crucial steps to ensuring their safety to drop, cover, and hold on. By doing so, they protect themselves from falling debris and maintain the safest possible positions during the quake. As the ground finally stills, an eerie silence descends upon the city, broken only by the distant sirens and car alarms. People emerge from their hiding places, disoriented by the shaking, taking stock of the aftermath. Roads are cracked and buckled, buildings have collapsed or suffered severe damage, and essential services such as water, electricity, and gas have been disrupted. In the moments following the quake, the city springs into action. Emergency responders rush to the scene, rapidly surveying damage and beginning to triage their response. Residents, still reeling from the shock, begin to emerge scared and bewildered from buildings. The extent of the damage varies across the city. Some areas bear minor cracks and superficial destruction, while others have experienced total devastation, with buildings reduced to rubble. Thousands are left homeless, businesses are destroyed, and infrastructure is severely compromised. In the face of the disaster, the city's emergency management organization swiftly activates key personnel, assemble or assess the situation, establish priorities, and coordinate a comprehensive response. The emergency management organization gathers in the Emergency Operations Center here, and the EOC becomes the nerve center for managing resources, making critical decisions, and communicating with the public and other agencies. In parallel, the city's continuity operations plan kicks into action, ensuring that we have a focus on ensuring continued operations of critical services and infrastructure, such as our wastewater treatment plant and airport, and serving our most at need. So with that, I get the first question to Jennifer Shembri as a part of this. So as soon as I am done duck and covering and checking in on family, my first call is going to be to Jennifer Shembri, and while I am the blue shift lead, I'm going to tell her that I've been injured, and then I need her to respond first for me. So, with a smile, she is going to say yes. And my first question to you, Jennifer, is, in this disaster, how does the decision to activate the EOC occur?
Sure. So thank you for the question. So as the EOC director, I think I do want to back up a little bit. I think it is really important when we are deciding whether to activate or that sort of thing, that we also know that we have other responsibilities. So I think planning is really important, as the mayor mentioned, making sure that we have plans at home so that I know if Lee calls me and says, you're activating first, I'm prepared. I know I don't have that 12 hours to prepare for it. I don't have 12 hours to get my kids somewhere. I have all of those plans in place, my emergency response kit at home updated, which I did 3 weeks ago after our functional exercise because it scared me. I said, I need to get this updated. And like you, Mayor, I had things that expired many years ago. I have a go bag in my car, so if I'm at work, I know I have everything I need to go straight to the EOC. So having those plans so that I'm not surprised if Lee says, you're responding first, you need to go to the EOC right now. I'm all prepared to do that. And having even backup plans to your backup plans is really important. So I would also make sure that I have my FirstNet phones. I think all of you have FirstNet phones. I think that that's also really important for us to be able to communicate. Cell service could be completely down, and that's the only way for us to communicate is through our FirstNet phones. So having that prepared as well. And then in communication with Lee, with the city manager, we make a decision to activate the EOC. I think in this scenario with a 7.0 earthquake, there's no question we will be activating the EOC, and it will be a full response. And so that communication, working with Ray and his team, would go out through what we call Everbridge to our EOC through various different communications, email, phone, all of that, and we would start reporting to the EOC. And then, as I mentioned before, a major function of the EOC director is making sure we have appropriate staffing and having those backup plans to the staffing. So if there's people that are not going to be able to report, can't get to the city, can't get to the EOC, and so having backup plans to our backup plans on staffing. So in this example, I won't have a counterpart if Lee is injured and not able to respond. So who will be my counterpart, knowing I wouldn't be able to do that for 24 hours a day? And so we have backup plans to that. Angel has been EOC director before. I'd probably tap him to help and be my counterpart on the gold shift for the EOC. So that would be kind of the first responding things that we would do, and just making sure that we're planning and preparing ahead of time, knowing that that is a potential that could come.
Thank you. One more question for Jennifer, but I did want to highlight, she said her FirstNet phone. If any of you do not have a FirstNet phone, I would please ask that you get one. I do remember the Loma Prieta earthquake, and my older sister was away at college at San Jose State and not living with us, but my memories of that earthquake, besides, our, everything being, destroyed in our house, was my parents just trying to get a hold of my sister for hours. Like, that's actually my memory of that event. And so FirstNet phone, you will be able to dial out and get prioritized. So obviously, it's not just us that have a responsibility during the disaster. You all do as well, and you're going to want to know that your loved ones are in a place that is comfortable, you know where they're at, so that you can turn your attention to your part of the job and your community as well, and that's going to be critically important. First interruption of the day, Mayor May.
Apologies. Just on those FirstNet phones, and I am also guilty of not always carrying mine with me, are we confident that they will work in an emergency? Are they satellite-based? I mean, if the cell towers are damaged, I don't know enough about the infrastructure to, look, I see Ray's gonna answer that.
Well, I'll make an effort at it. What we've noticed in the last major recent earthquake, for example, in Japan in 2010, their cell tower structure was not significantly damaged. Yes, there were delays, yes, there were backups, but the structure and infrastructure remained. What we're getting an understanding from AT&T and the other big cell providers is that they've improved that capability, and including a bill was passed 2 years ago that requires cell phone towers to have 48 hours of emergency power at the sites. So the cell tower systems and the infrastructure is improving to make sure we can have that ongoing support. Then the AT&T infrastructure FirstNet does allow for priority calling, and that's why we have the contract with the FirstNet, so we can and will bump if we have priority over other calls in the program. They used to call it the Mother's Day event. Every Mother's Day, the phone system would have a mini crash because everybody's calling their mother to wish her a happy Mother's Day. They've improved on that. It doesn't happen quite as often.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
I will say the organization does have a handful of satellite phones as well, which I know I have one. I test on a monthly basis. So those can be distributed as well. All right, last question. Jennifer, what is the emergency operations plan, and how is that connected with EOC activations?
So we talked a little bit about what the emergency operations plan, and it's kind of like a basic framework for how we would function in an emergency. And so we would definitely pull that out in this scenario. But again, be able to iterate on that depending on the circumstances. We pull out the annexes that Lee mentioned. If we have debris management needs, if we need people to get to certain places, if that earthquake then turned into a flood because Calero Dam broke, we would need to pull out those, which was part of our functional exercise previously, it's in my mind. And so we would make sure that we are using that plan as a basis for our operations going forward.
All right, thank you. So Jennifer, I am going to turn the rest of the questions over to you and your team to walk us through the rest of the exercise.
Great, thank you. And I am going to start with our PIO. So Carolina, can you talk more about your priorities and the activities you are focused on in that first 24 hours?
Thank you, Jennifer. During a catastrophic emergency, the Emergency Public Information Branch is going to focus on providing frequent updates to save lives, livelihoods, and the environment. As mentioned previously, the Emergency Public Information Branch is responsible for delivering timely and accurate life-saving information in multiple languages. This slide shows an example of the many activations we've been in and some of the messaging we've done. So to ensure we reach our intended audience, we will use a variety of tactics. That includes emergency notifications, mass media, TV, print, and radio, digital media such as web, video, and social platforms, point of service like table cards, shopping carts, A-frames, direct mail, and grassroots such as door knocking and working with nonprofit and faith partners. And while I'm at it, I will answer one of the Councilmember Campos's question about how we would, or was it the mayor's question about how we would communicate if all systems were down. The good news is that much of the mass media has prepared for emergencies as well, so they can continue, and we would work with radio and TV. We know that would be the quickest and best way to reach many people. We would work with our community centers, and Councilmember Duan mentioned our public safety locations, and of course each of you at the DDOs to ensure that you have information when your constituents come to your doors. Community centers may be a location where people would come for information from the city. We would rely heavily on grassroots. Some of the previous events, we've had several of you door knocking to ensure people knew that floods were coming or that there was the potential for a flood. And we'd use our staff and work with our partners to ensure that we're doing much more grassroots. Our police department has access to LRADs, and I'm sure they'll be talking about that. Wanted to make sure I addressed a couple of those questions that were asked early on. The important thing to know is that information will be provided in a minimum of 4 languages: Spanish, English, Vietnamese, traditional Chinese, and American Sign Language. The messages will be transcreated to ensure they resonate in language and culture. I think that's important. Transcreation was incredibly important during COVID, and it's really what helped us get the message out to all of our community and ensure that we were the most vaccinated large city. During a catastrophic emergency, as I mentioned, we will focus on providing frequent updates to save lives, livelihoods, and the environment. Within 24 hours, that's likely going to be basic needs: food, water, shelter, emergency, non-emergency medical assistance, evacuations, red tagging, and that sort.
Thank you. And just last question, can you explain how you would get information to the city council members so they can share the information? And could you talk a little bit about how you would work with the liaison branch to do that?
Yes. So the Emergency Public Information Branch is likely going to be creating many tactics that we would distribute to the community, and we definitely need your assistance to help get the word out. I would be working, or someone in the EPIO would be working with our council liaison to ensure that you had timely emails that included toolkits. You have probably received quite a few toolkits from the council liaison for our previous emergencies. And in the event that we did not have access to digital tools, we would make sure that you would have information printed so that you can then provide that information at your DDOs.
Thank you, Carolina. So I'm going to move on to the liaison branch. Angel, can you talk more about your priorities and the activities you're focused on in the first 24 hours, and also speak to your role as it relates to the city council?
All right. Yeah, in the first 24 hours, we go into full-blown information gathering mode, right? And again, depending on what venues are available and open, you know, we assess that. The liaison branch coordinator is like joined at the hip with the PIO in terms of, you know, collecting that information. During that 24-hour period, you know, information is coming in through formal means as well as a lot of informal means, and a lot of focus is given to kind of really kind of dispelling kind of rumors, fact from fiction, you know, truth from rumors, you know, back to Councilmember Campos's question. Fact-checking information and misinformation, and just trying to get as accurate as possible, and making sure that that information is synthesized in a manner that can help inform EOC immediate actions, as well as begin to kind of feed the public messaging that goes outside, as well as it also helps to guide the information that then is provided to you as mayor and council. The liaison branch coordinator, in terms of the role with council, I would be communicating directly with you all and providing information that we have, information referenced kind of earlier, as well as collecting information from you all, because as mayor and council, you have a lot of your constituencies and your residents that will be, reaching out to you all, and oftentimes one of the richest sources of information actually comes from you all, right? So, that information exchange will be happening, and we'll try to keep things really tight and concise, and again, give you the information that you need to be both responsive to your constituency as well as to have information for your own knowledge and info. So.
And an important item that I wanted to highlight is that the liaison officer branch and the EPIO team are tied at the hip, and they have a dedicated room back here just so they're sharing the messaging, communicating more effectively with each other in the design of this facility. And they're also in close proximity to the planning section, which is here underneath the blue sign. So there's a lot of sharing of information, trying to make sure our information is most current and active at the time of sharing that information.
I'm going to use up one of my questions. And I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask, but I'm curious how we communicate with other agencies like schools. How are we interacting with them to let them know what we're doing, how we need their help, how we can help them? Because there's going to be a lot of people. This isn't going to happen when our kids are at home. This is going to happen when our kids are at school or out on the soccer field. So how are we communicating with all of those groups?
Yeah, I'll start and then ask Ray and Angel to jump in. One of the things that we didn't cover yet, but Councilmember Casey asked, is what the county's role is. So within California, all of the counties are what they call they cover the operational area. So the county has an umbrella over the county. So as the county goes to activate, we would be sending folks there, but they also, all with the schools, so we get coordination at a very high level, so the county is responsible for that coordination at a high level. At the same point in time, there's going to be very tactical things, like if an earthquake happens, like do school districts need assistance getting kids home? And so there is a school liaison within Angel's unit that would start reaching out and having those conversations and trying to figure out, like at a ground level of what is happening. So there's kind of coordination at a high level and a low level, but we have a school liaison officer that would be reaching out or would be reached out to.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is and this is really where the value and the power of pre-existing relationships really kick in, right? I mean, when I think back to the floods or even some of the fires and some of the responses, I mean, we really, for example, tapped into the Youth Empowerment Alliance, formerly the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force network as one of the, the chief sources of just getting information out. So we would definitely tap into that. We have a database of all those contacts, right? Because in real time, when this is all happening, you got to, oftentimes it's the personal cell number and that kind of a thing. And same thing with community leaders, right? You have neighborhood association leaders, residents reaching out directly. And so we really tap into the power, the pre-existing power of just the relationships that we have, right? And then anything that we do on top of that, is just icing on the cake.
Great.
I want to throw a flag and interrupt. No, so as everybody here is aware, we have a very robust community emergency response team program in our city, throughout our city. And so maybe that's coming, but I'm curious to know, what the role that we have for our CERT teams as part of this exercise or this incident.
Yeah, one of the key roles, obviously, we've invested a lot into the CERT program, or Community Emergency Response Team program. When I arrived here in 2017, the concept of CERT then was just train people so that they're trained in the community. What we have since done is create a symbiotic relationship where we see them as an extension of our response. So as we get to the operations section, the red jackets over here, I won't refer to them as red coats because that's old terminology. But CERT has a seat in our operations section because that is a source of data coming in. They are a source of providing support and stabilization until police and fire can get to the scene of those locations.
Thank you, Rick.
Great, thank you. We're going to turn to our safety officer, Joe Gregory. So Joe, as the safety officer, can you talk more about your priorities and the activities you're focused on in that first 24 hours?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, our focus is taking care of the responders that are actually going out and supporting the community through what's happening and getting it done. So like many of the sections that are here, my initial focus is going to be gathering situational awareness related to the event. I'm going to want to know the scope and the severity of the event. It'll inform hazard analysis on my part. So if I know that I have a lot of damaged critical infrastructure related to gas lines or electrical or things like that, I know that those are going to be exposures to disaster service workers as well as first responders that are in the field. And those are things that my team will be thinking about. Based on that information, we'll be determining what resources we need to stand up to the safety branch itself for field safety inspection teams and support teams as well as teams that are in here developing content, training content, and doing hazard analysis so that we understand what resources that we need. And then obviously collaborating immediately with the logistics branch to start getting those resources moving throughout the city so we can get them in the hands of the folks that actually need them. A few things that are happening within the Emergency Operations Center are standing up what's known as the health and safety plan for the incident, which is kind of a global plan based on the circumstances that will give some basic information on how employees can keep themselves safe. In an earthquake, obviously this is beware of aftershocks and things like that. During COVID-19, this was social distancing and proper hand hygiene and different things like that. So the health and safety plan is delivered to planning and intelligence and then incorporated into the overall operational plan so that it can be there. Very living document, as all of our objectives are within our branch, obviously, because these are dynamic situations. The other thing that we're focusing on is really attaching ourselves as much as we can with the operations team to understand what field activities are happening and what resources that we can bring to them. They're focused on life-saving activities and responding to the event. We're focused on their blind spots that may be out there related to safety. And so I always encourage the safety officers, I tell them, throw elbows to the extent that you need to get in those places so that you can make sure that you are calling those out. Atmospheric rivers that we dealt with last year, a lot of debris removal was happening and a lot of monitoring of rivers. So ensuring that employees that were in the field were trained to stay back from floodwaters and how far back and how to do that safely was one of the main things that we really stood up, and we did real-time training for those teams that may not have that information. The last part of it that I mentioned earlier is really focusing on the mental wellness of the responders. That's circulating people in and out of their positions, but it's also making sure that EAP services have been stood up and are being proactively pushed out, and critical incident response counseling sessions as needed are happening. A lot of traumatic events happen within these, and a big push that we've been focusing on over the last couple of years has been psychological first aid for responders. It's not intended to be a full complement of therapy, but it is intended to be an in the moment, you've dealt with something really significant right now, let's help you work through that a little bit, and then let's help channel them to resources so that they're taken care of later. And then obviously coordinating with finance on any workers' comp related things.
Thank you, Joe, and that was a good example about the flooding and making sure that people that were involved in that was using safe procedures. So now we'll turn to Andrea as the AFN coordinator. Can you talk more about your priorities and activities you were focused on in that first 24 hours?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. I think I would take a big, deep breath. And again, the role as the AFN coordinator is to really prioritize and advocate for the most vulnerable and ensuring that we have a very inclusive, equitable, and effective way in ensuring that folks, especially with the lens of access and functional needs, are focused. And I think it's great to be situated and that the city has really prioritized this because we know in emergencies, especially the most vulnerable, can have the most difficulties, especially in evacuation and such. So in my first 24 hours, I'd be with the emergency communication and alerts. I'd be working closely with the public information officer, ensuring that our emergency alerts, press conferences are accessible in addition to those core translated languages. Carolina mentioned ASL as well, and as well as audio formats, and really assisting in relaying critical information to individuals who may have difficulty receiving those alerts. I would also work with the operations and logistic teams on evacuation and shelter coordination and identify and address mobility challenges during those evacuations. For example, our older adults who experience mobility issues, folks who use a wheelchair or any other mobility devices, ensure accessible transportations are available for evacuation, coordinate with our mass care team to confirm ADA compliant spaces, necessary medical and assistive resources such as showers, ramps, and wheelchair accessibility, and ensure compassionate care, spaces for pets and service animals during evacuation, and that ensure disability-related accommodations are available at most to the extent possible in these recovery centers. Regarding medical and assistive support, ensure that individuals that need access to their medication or medical devices, and especially medical devices that need electricity-dependent equipment, and other personal care and assistance, such as if we're having sheltering sites or evacuation sites, do we have the necessary kind of equipment, electricity to kind of provide that, and coordinate with our liaison team to work with the local emergency services, nonprofits, and community organizations to address any specific needs that we may be missing or just kind of still taking that breath, and really just to coordinate with them and with you all, and advocate, again, for inclusive disaster response strategies. And so I think those are all really important in the 24 hours, and I think it would be remiss of me to kind of ignore the post kind of any of the recovery support. So really provide individuals access to recovery resources, which might look like temporary housing, food, and medical care, and other kind of resources and kind of agencies they may need to connect to. And then especially connect individuals with mental and behavioral health support. We all know in disasters it can have a lot of stressful events, and sheltering can be really stressful as well. So how do we be as compassionate and as resourceful and helpful in the moment as much as possible?
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Matt now, the operations section.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question.
Thank you for that information, and I wanted to reflect back on getting folks who are most vulnerable out of spaces that are dangerous and into safe spaces. You mentioned a plan for people who may have physical disabilities, in a wheelchair, older adults. What about our plan for children, young children, right? We have family child care homes that have anywhere from 3 to a dozen young, many immobile children. And now we have our FFN programs, our Friend, Family, Neighbor programs that are not licensed. And the licensed family child care home centers or spaces we do know about through state licensing. So are they included in the emergency plans?
Thank you, Councilmember Campos. As you recall, you and I had a good lengthy conversation about that when we had the opportunity to talk a couple weeks ago. And that is something you brought that to our awareness, and I was been working with Karen. We are starting to bring that whole concept in, because it was a process I was not honestly aware of. So we're engaging that, making sure that we do make that part of our mass care and shelter operations and other support services.
Thank you. And I will just add, most of these state licensed family child care homes have their own emergency plan. So it'd be great to know how that can reflect in the work we do.
So Matt, as the operations section coordinator, you oversee the fire and rescue branch and the law branch. Other branches may be activated within your section as well. In this instant, what are your priorities, seeing as you oversee multiple branches? And I wanted to add, what would your staffing look like?
So we will activate all the branches of this in this particular scenario, and we'll activate them quickly so that we can get an understanding so we can have real situational awareness to be able to provide information to share. So all of the branches you'll see here would be activated in this scenario. So the entire roster. And so we'd first be looking at the easiest ones for us to connect with, which would be police and fire, because they have already standing positions and ready communication in. They would be the first go-to, but then every one of the other branches would be activated, and the department operations centers would be activated. I think that answers the questions there. I think one of the things we're going to be looking at is, so this is, as you can see, a very large branch with very many people. What we immediately are doing is stepping out of our roles in our prior work, but somewhat connected to our prior skills and training, but really activating this. You see all the branches, and many branches have department operations centers, and many of our branches complement each other and interact with each other. What we will be doing at the ops section will be setting the strategy for the operational period. And this is where, depending if you're in operational period 1, the first 12 hours, or operation period 6 or 7, several days later, we'll be implementing plans that were set for us. But in this first instance, we'll be setting the plan, trying to get an understanding of what the most critical things are, setting a priority, and then attacking each one of those priorities. But inside the departments, under the branches, they will have tactical opportunities and be able to make decisions based on what they're seeing, based on the strategies of and objectives what we're trying to hit. Whether it's get information, clear an evacuation path, move material one way or the other, find out what rosters are available, who's available to fill what roster spots. I mean, all of those things are coming in that first instance. But depending on what operational period is, the action and activities are changing a little bit.
Great, thank you, and I'll turn it over to you to ask your branch.
Yes, everybody's dying to know what questions and what script I'm going to stick to, and I'm not sticking to a script, which is good for everybody. Keep you all loose. Because what's really interesting, so as you see, Walter got brought in here late. This is what happens at the EOC. We get brought into interesting scenarios, like you're bringing up some new information, we have to adapt to it, reprioritize. And during our functional exercise that we had, I think they were trying to throw every curveball at us that they possibly could. I'm sure they could have come up with more and more drastic ones, but we had to adapt and change and reprioritize consistently. And so providing the branches the opportunity to lead tactically within their groups, meeting those objectives is really hard, and it is really intense, and Lee's quite right. It is not a quiet place, especially in the operations branch. And so as I ask the questions, what I'm going to ask the branch section leads to talk about is, one, how you interplay with the others, but then how you interplay with your DOCs. And so the DOCs, the Department Operations Center, and bring in where they are logistically, where they are placed around you, and how they support you in your mission. That's kind of the number one thing. So just starting with police and fire. And so we'll go fire first and police, so I can hand the microphone. What will you be doing in the first 12 hours as you analyze after this 7.0 earthquake on Hayward? What are your top 2 or 3 objectives at the fire department?
Typically with fire service, our top objectives are life safety, incident stabilization, property conservation, and then the environment. And so those are our overarching goals always. In this particular situation, and someone that's been in the fire service for close to 40 years and been through the Loma Prieta earthquake and several emergencies, you find that resource drain is there initially, right? Early on, resources are taxed. And so our role is initial response, damage assessment, ensuring that the responders are capable of providing the service, mutual aid request from the op area, as was indicated earlier by Assistant City Manager. So with that, we have a system through the California State Mutual Aid Plan that brings in resources from outside, first from the op area, and then outside the op area in the region, and then potentially to the state, depending on the magnitude of the emergency. So that's what's happening in the initial stages. Our DOC is in operation dealing with what's happening locally here in the city. Initially, typically response patterns are going to have to be modified for dispatch because of the drain on resources. And so while we may start with a robust response that may change, working with our partners in the fire service, and then each of the entities within the section. And so if we have to look at evacuation, talking to folks about housing, if we have to look at additional damage assessment, working with the building department through PBCE. And so it is a multifaceted approach to dealing with this. And again, that first 12-hour period is typically a larger situation going on beyond the capabilities typically of local government. And so we're looking to set the stage to bring in those resources, do what we need to do. Another big resource might be our urban search and rescue teams within the United States. There are 24 teams, 7 in the state of California. And so depending on the impact of this emergency across the region, the state will dictate the types of resources that we get to help the fire service in terms of search and rescue and addressing many of the issues that may occur as a result of large-scale disaster.
Chief, in your experience, what would the realistic expectation of mutual aid coming in this scenario? How many days would it take for mutual aid to hit San Jose?
Well, again, depending on the magnitude of the emergency and depending on the magnitude of the emergency, right, it's a case-by-case basis, and so you really have to look at where the damage occurs, right? There may be ways that we have to route people in from the south. If you look at the example that was given, the northern portion of the area was impacted, right, towards Milpitas. It looks like around the dam areas potentially, and so depending on what's happening there, if we have a way to bring resources in another way, we will. However, depending again on the magnitude, the amount of damage, it may be days, right, before we get those resources, but that will not happen until we're able to assess the situation to have those resources potentially come into the city.
Same question.
If I'm answering the same questions, first and foremost, we'll start off with priorities, which essentially match what fire and Matt just talked about. We don't have different priorities. The important part for the law enforcement, obviously, is public safety and the preservation of life, preservation of property. There's also an additional plethora of responsibilities that law has in terms of area security, law and order. And I think it will be a balance of prioritization in terms of how we deliver those how we address those priorities. And then the second question was about mutual aid. In the 7.0, I think it's fair to say that we would certainly see mutual aid because the realization that not all PD's resources would be available to respond to the city of San Jose to respond when, in fact, officers would be dealing with their own individual emergencies at home.
I just wanted to jump into on the mutual aid. That's one of the reasons on the continuity of operation planning that the airport is so critical. If there are roads damaged, getting the airport back open allows us to bring in people and resources a lot more quickly. And it's not just our airport, but we would still, for a few years, have Reed Hillview as well as San Martin to be able to do those things.
Yeah, so my final question for Law right now is, so looking at our resources, but then we get state and federal with National Guard, how does National Guard come in and fit, and what would we realistically expect in terms of support there?
For the deployment of National Guard, they would be partners in a disaster. The likelihood of them being deployed at the state level would be high. Deployment would be area security. They would be an assist. We would use their vehicles for the evacuation portion, which law is essentially responsible for. And finally, just being attended the Super Bowl this year and had an opportunity to see National Guard in full deployment, and just the mere fact that you have representatives of law on each corner essentially established law and order for those areas.
Lisa, the initial damage assessment that Chief mentioned, our shot clock starts as soon as that earth stops shaking. Talk about the damage assessment and then what we need to do and by when, and what information we need to gather and what your DOC would be doing with you to help that happen.
Thank you. So after the earthquake happens, the damage assessment branch is going to be receiving feedback from our first responders on where the damaged areas are and initial assessments of how bad the damage is. And that's going to help us support emergency declarations. It's also going to help us determine if we need mutual aid from a damage assessment standpoint to help with the assessment of all the facilities. We'll be working closely with our mass care and shelter partners to know what are identified facilities within the city that we may need for mass care and shelter, and then we'll work with our public works partners to have inspections done on those, and then if needed, the building team can step in and help with those inspections, and our DOC is set up in City Hall, and then we have all of our inspectors reporting to 4 fire stations throughout the city. So we're well deployed. We will also be working to ensure that resources that the community needs, like big box stores, grocery stores, the ones that can be open are open. And then working for damage assessment to get our residents back in. Was there another question?
By when do we have to have that initial damage assessment provided to the state? What is our shot clock? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Bill, can you help with that? What is our shot clock in terms of when that damage assessment is?
ASAP?
Yeah, I know, it's fast.
Looking to report within 24 to 48 hours of what we're looking for the declaration to start getting support.
And so if a 7.0 earthquake, you could think probably tens or hundreds of thousands of structures could be damaged and need to be assessed. And so what is the resources that your DOC is able to deploy in terms of the specialty inspections, the special inspections you guys need to do to certify those buildings?
So in the building division, assuming everybody can report, because people live all over, and we'll see with our friends of transportation, if we can get our inspectors where they need to be. We've got 60 to 70 inspectors on our team that are ready and certified to do damage assessments. We also, with the mutual aid, it's a very strong community, as we've seen with all of the other earthquakes and fires and whatnot. People are wanting and willing to help from all over the country. They're all certified in the same way. So getting those resources in is going to be key so that we can do, in a 7.0 earthquake, much of the city is going to be damaged, to get those assessed and as many people back in as we can.
Just really quickly for the council to understand, that initial damage assessment is due early, and I should say the state is very well aware that that number is going to fluctuate. It is needed because a certain threshold needs to be met for the governor to declare it as a statewide disaster so that they can mobilize additional resources. It's also used to prioritize mutual aid requests that we would send into the county, then the county then sends into the state, so that the state OES has a much better idea of where the impacts are throughout the Bay Area in this exercise.
Can I have an interruption? Lisa, I was just thinking about how much work PBCE does with local professionals. Is there any thought around how to, create a roster of, our not inspectors, but our mechanical engineers and, structural engineers that we have locally, to kind of have them on a roster? And are we authorized to, sort of deputize them to be involved in this?
So I think that would be part of the overall mutual aid request for their SAP certified individuals. We also do have a program called the Building Occupancy Resumption Program, where some big facilities like eBay and other ones where they have big campuses, they have already outlined their buildings and what engineers are going to come do that for them, so that we don't have to worry about that. And so we have several facilities throughout the city that have opted into that.
All right, the next branches are mass care and housing. And I'd like to talk about in both, because oftentimes we look to both branches at the same time, differentiate what your roles are, but how they're also complementary, and what we're doing in terms of how we're dealing with mass care and housing, and what you would be doing in the first day or so.
Thank you. Andrea Flores-Shelton, Assistant Director of Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, first shift for Mass Care Shelter Branch. Our top responsibilities are to stand up a 24/7 shelter supplied with basic needs and essentials, and we would also, that's for people as well as pets. We also have a responsibility for reunification efforts. Our top two things that we would be doing, different from housing, we would be activating our DOC with PRNS staff, and thanks to Measure T, we are very happy that Camden Community Center is about to be finished and outfitted for our DOC. One of our key partners, Red Cross, they would be activated immediately. They have the ability to stand up 2 shelters countywide. We want to be the first ones to contact them so that we can get one of, if not 2, at least one of the shelters operated by Red Cross. Those are the key things that we do. I don't know if I want to hand it over to Cupid now.
Yeah, Cupid Alexander, Deputy Director of Housing. So there's several things that housing would have to do. Number one, there's places that the city currently has individuals that live in, and there are jails, there's other facilities. Most of them have a COOP, a continuum of operations plan. So the first thing we would say, activate your COOP. You have people, you have places that you need to go, you have entities that house people. Think of jails. So we would let them know, because some of the things that we're going to take into consideration with the mass care coordination is that as we get up congregate shelter, what are the sanitation needs, what are the security needs, what are the basic provisions that are needed, the accommodations for disabilities, the accommodations for transportation and evacuation. So that would be in coordination with the police, that would be in coordination with fire. Something that I didn't think of before, but in the exercise we had to do is purchase orders simultaneously, making sure that we're filling out documentation to get what we need. We would also be waiting for damage assessment from that team, and then we would also want to make sure that we understand the influence area. So one of the things that we have consideration of is some of the local agencies that have large facilities. We would also let the university know some of those individuals are going to be young people who do not have parents. They're going to be scared. One of our principles is going to be clear communication. So we would be making sure that the information that we receive from our operations section coordinator, which would be Matt, is clear before we go out and say anything. So all of these things would be pretty much happening simultaneously, coordinating with Salvation Army and Red Cross, and then some of our other jurisdictional partners, because until we know where we can go, we're kind of waiting to make sure that we can identify to individuals where they can go, and then we can create coordination to get them there. One of the things that we had a long conversation about was working with DOT, because if some of the roads don't have access points, people cannot get out of there. So
I have an interruption. With mass casualty, do you have a clear plan and designated area where these congregated shelter will be sprung up? And how fast can you get those up in mass casualty situation, especially when we have thousands of people who need shelter, including schools and elderlies and so on?
Thank you, Councilmember. We know through our functional exercise that the pressure to open up a shelter is very great. And so we do rely, before we put out information about where people need to go, we have to verify, we have to rely on these damage assessments so that we're not bringing people to unsafe facilities. And so we are going to be utilizing, large-scale sites, like everything from Excite Stadium to Convention Center to PayPal. So again, we have to go beyond the windshield assessments and really understand whether those buildings, we can say, thousands of people, please go to X site. We really need to verify that information. And we also just want folks to know that we would be utilizing, back to our relationship with schools, we already have, PRNS has executed numerous MOAs with school districts so that we have access to football fields, to gymnasiums. Because of, again, the size of our city, it is going to depend on so many things in terms of access to spaces, can people get to the convention center? If they can't, what's our plan B? And then lastly, we also are planning for emergency policy changes. Should we allow everyone to be able to camp in their regional park or neighborhood park because they can't access or get to the shelter sites that have been designated? So there's a lot of different scenarios, but I think the proxy of at least 10% of our population may need shelter is what we're planning for. So it's sort of a startling 100,000 number that comes up, but we, again, want to prioritize those vulnerable communities, those that have been living in soft story housing stock that are the most vulnerable for damage.
Thank you, and I know that, okay, yeah, you called me on it, I appreciate it. Might as well interrupt my second question. Even with those football field, you will need those congregated shelter up quickly, including facilities, restroom and so on. How do you get those material and those pre-engineering modular shelter up quickly within days?
So I would just, to jump in, and then Andrea can go into specifics. One of the things that we mentioned was the annex plan around mass care and our emergency operations center base plan. So that includes all the resources, including these locations that the city has at their disposal. So hopefully, you know, the reason some of these facilities aren't advertised ahead of time, or why we don't advertise an evacuation route ahead of time, is we don't know what's going to be available. That evacuation route or that shelter that we were counting on may be damaged and not accessible, and we don't want residents going there. So that's why they're not advertised early. But we have all of that cataloged so that we can start looking at them. With, you know, with those first few hours, I would just say two things. The locations that aren't damaged, that have facilities for food, bathroom, water, where gas or electricity is still working on, those would be prioritized so that we could move people in as quickly as possible. One of the things that Ray and team also have are these contractual arrangements. So as those facilities start to become filled at capacity, one of the early things that the organization can do is tap into those contractual arrangements or mutual aid and get those additional materials here for those sites.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add to that we would be working in hand with our logistics partners on the staging areas, right? These supplies that are going to be needed for these, you know, shelter sites or massive shelter sites, we're going to need staging areas. So that's a whole nother sort of location identification. And then we're working with our DOC as we identify numbers. It's ordering, it's supply, it's procurement. So there's so much cross-coordination within the operations section for mass care to really meet its responsibilities.
Yeah, for every activity that everybody's already mentioned, will require a request from logistics to perform something.
Correct.
Every single thing of mutual aid goes through logistics as well. So there's just, every bit of what everybody's talking about, it has a logistics component to it. All right. Switching over to Public Works Chair, Catherine, you know, in complementary to the stuff we're talking about mass care, how do we assess buildings? How do we leverage our teams to help them support in the field operations as well to understand our civil infrastructure?
So Catherine Brown, Assistant Director of Public Works in the day job, and then Public Works Branch Chair during these types of events. Similar to PBCE, we focus on the city facilities. So the damage assessments are done. We would immediately be coordinating with our DOC, our Department Operations Center, guy behind me back here, to send out all of our SAPs. Those are the individuals that can do those damage assessments to look specifically at, I know it was talked about by Andrea, but the Measure T community centers that we are implementing. There's one in each council district, and those are the shelter-ready facilities. Those would be likely the primary function or the primary focus initially, just so that we can facilitate getting people there, getting to a safe spot. But we would be lockstep with each individual located in this red section, as well as the yellow, green, and everyone else. And working very, very closely with our DOC to ensure that we have the correct number of people, that everyone is safe, obviously, to go out and do these assessments and report back into this group to let them know these are the things that we can move forward with. This is where you can start moving people, or this is where it's not safe to move people as of yet. What was the other question?
That's fine. I think what is the complementary piece to what happens as we hand it over to Rick and DOT is, because our teams, all these teams work interplay and complement each other and support. So if we need more on the civil infrastructure review, the damage assessment team would look at some of those priorities, but then focus back onto the private sector building assessments, because they need to analyze all the homes, every apartment building, I mean, they have a massive inventory that they need to work on that we need to get them to so people can have housing they could be leaning on. But then the civil infrastructure is the primary focus for us to make sure everything can be passable. How does that work with DOT? And then we can pass it over to Rick.
Yeah, so I think generally we have a lot of eyes in the field. And so I think that's one of the benefits of having the Public Works DOC operational, is that they're in the field and they can easily report back to me on any road blockages or any debris that needs to be cleared from roadways. And then that information is then shared with Rick over in the Department of Transportation branch over here, he can then mobilize his crews. And he's also sometimes in coordination with my DOC, that like both of us can be on a call with my DOC to ensure that he has eyes where he needs them.
So then, Rick, in the transportation branch, what are your priorities in terms of that initial review and then initial mobilization of any of your resources?
So our main priorities in the transportation branch are to ensure or understand the conditions of the roadways, excuse me, and ensure the safety of critical infrastructure, especially of the sewer system. As we mentioned, the RWF is critical, so we need to make sure our sewer system is also functioning. As I come into this chair, my priority is establishing communications through the DOC, which is basically my link to 250 DOT employees all over the city, through the Mayberry Yard, through the Central Service Yard, through the West Yard, and then we have a South Yard. So we've got employees that deploy out of all those places, largely maintenance workers with some heavy equipment, but we have inspectors and engineers that are out there and ensuring, reporting back to us and allowing me to convey the situation in the field to folks in the operations branch and get strategic direction back down through the DOC to our DOC director, who's usually Jennifer Sagan, who's not here today.
Yeah, so if you could see with the transportation as the muscle behind moving big things out of the way is if we're needing to move things out of the way for our first responders to get to them, to provide life safety and or provide secure environments.
Matt, if I could just add one thing also, debris man. So just in this instance, when there's a 7.0 earthquake, it's unlikely that we have the equipment to significantly move huge slabs. That's going to be a gap. And luckily, the Office of Emergency Management has been working on a procurement for a debris management contract. And we're also going to have a debris management chair most of the time when the magnitude is that high. Typically, DOT will coordinate that, so it'll be a DOT or ESD employee sitting in that chair, and then the contractual resources will be the ones removing this heavy debris. Again, we have some excavators, we've got some equipment, but not to the level that's clearing roadways of these huge buildings that may have collapsed. So just some additional new context.
Thanks, Rick. And now, to CERT and the ability to communicate, in Public Works, our department, we do the radio communications for the city, but it is the means for us to communicate within. With CERT, please talk about what would be your initial reaction of how would we step up to be available in those first few hours people are cramming the cell phones and the phone lines aren't working. What services do we provide the first couple days?
Hello, Frank Danwam, CERT Program Manager. So we'll be working with district leadership. So we have 10 different districts with 10 different district leaderships. So we work hand in hand on a regular basis, almost a monthly basis, and a lot of them are part of the RACES group as well. So that's a way for us to communicate with them. And just a few weeks ago, we had a radio communication exercise. So, yeah.
Let me just add that locally at the neighborhoods, they use a radio service called GMRS, which is a local radio frequency they can communicate amongst themselves. And then the RACES is the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services organization, and many of us know that they're called ham radio operators. So we have a dedicated room back here on the corner that's for our auxiliary radio communication, so we can get that communication without relying too much on phone lines and cell phone capabilities and engaging and understanding what might be happening out there in the community. We also, in the room behind Jennifer, that's a dispatch capability in there, so we have PD and fire substations in there as a backup to other communications so that we can make sure that the operations group has that link to the other groups. And on the 150-foot tower outside, we also have a GMRS radio repeater that can almost reach the entire city in terms of communication for the CERT programs. So just an awareness.
Jennifer, back to you.
All right, thank you. So I think the next slide shows some pictures of our functional exercise that we did on February 27th. We had mentioned this a couple of different times, and this does show the operations branch. And as you can tell from their conversation here, there's a lot of coordination that goes on. This is really where the action happens. I would say they were probably the loudest in the group. And probably the group that we want to check on the most. Joe Gregory will send over there to check on their mental health. But a lot of work and coordination goes on in that group, and we appreciate them very much. So not contrary to that, but complementary to that is our planning section. So while you have a lot of the action in the operations, planning section is really the background and making sure that we're organized and planning for all of these different things, scenarios. And so I will turn it over to Jay on that. And so first question for you, is information coming from the field through the Department Operations Centers into the various EOC branches, of course, needs to be captured. So can you tell us what are some of the key responsibilities of this position? How do you staff the position? And how would you summarize that function of planning?
Thank you, Jennifer. Again, my name is Jay McCamus. My day job is Deputy Director of the Office of Emergency Management. As a planning section coordinator in the planning section itself, I'd mentioned earlier that it's all things information. I want to clarify that for you. All things information about the event. So the focus is on not only what's happening in this room. You've heard a lot of conversation about what happens in the EOC, what types of activities. That is information. Also, we collect information from the outside. I'll talk about that in a second. Councilmember Campos, you had mentioned earlier about having some concerns about misinformation. So one of the key roles of the planning section is not only collecting information, but analyzing that information and turning it into actionable intelligence. So you want to trust but verify. And you don't want to put information out that is not bad information. So once you get that information, and you can get it within the room, you can get it outside of the room, but then we would have a conversation in here with communications, the emergency public information officer, in crafting messages to the public and to our partners that are timely and relevant. Those are two really key aspects of that. Matt talked a little bit about the initial damage assessment. Well, there's something that's asked for, the initial damage estimate, which affects both the kind of support we get from the state and the federal government on both public assistance and individual assistance. So they're very early macro information to give a sense to the outside world what kind of help we're going to need and what needs to start being mobilized when something happens. And that normally happens within the first 48 hours. And so a lot of our activities initially are in collecting that information. The planning section facilitates the meetings that we have here in the building to share all that information. We have a situational analysis positions that we staff that are tied specifically to public works, transportation, to make sure that we're getting the type of information we need to get. We use a bunch of tools that are technical of nature, and we'll talk about one in a second, but we use all this information going into the operation, but also backing out of it, what we call demobilization. So work with Jennifer, the EOC director, and now how do we back out of what we stood up, and then how do we capture the information for after action reporting. And so we do what's called a hot wash. So we would help facilitate that hot wash at the end of the event to capture what went well, what didn't go well. We have a room over here that is dedicated to the collection of information, situational analysis, and GIS mapping. So we use maps extensively. Operations will request maps of certain things, and so that directly supports that. Other tools, we've got 3 slides coming up. And what these depict, the first slide here depicts if we were to just call for a general activation or if there was people just self-activated from an event that happened somewhere in the city. What this depicts here is really an unfocused evacuation where everybody leaves at the same time and disperses. And the worst case scenario in this, you're looking at about 6 hours of trip time for individuals who are in the impacted area to get out of the area because it's chaotic, to say the least. And that's really the kind of focus for this tool that depicts here. And I will mention we have a contract with Ladris, which utilizes artificial intelligence in being able to map this out. And this is where the graphic comes from. Next slide, please. So what we want to do is to be able to take the information we have, use the tool that you see in front of you to help create order out of chaos. Plan our evacuations in an organized manner to get people out, to reduce the time, the trip time for the average resident in the affected area. So you can see here, if you look on the left-hand side, it cuts that time in half. That's the estimation by using this tool. So it really has, that's an example of the types of technical tools that we use in analysis for making those kinds of decisions. Next slide. This tool can also be used for other things. Now, you heard conversations earlier in the operations section about damage assessments. We can actually use a tool like this to map out the damages, where they're at, what the impacts are in collection. So the teams go out, collect all the information, bring it back together, put that in a map, and be able to track, okay, what part of the city was impacted the most? And so these types of tools are really important to us as we look to things like advanced planning, for example, looking out in the future. What are we doing, not today or tomorrow, but maybe 3 days or 4 days in advance?
All right, we're back on. Thank you, Jay. So I wanted to turn to the logistics section now, and Walter, thank you for coming here. So could you tell us what the logistics section position involves, and what would be some of your top priorities in a 7.2 earthquake?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Walter Lin, Deputy Director of Public Works, and within the EOC, I help to lead the logistics section. So what the logistics section is involved with, as Matt had mentioned, it's really tying in all of the resource needs and requests from every other branch and providing that as quickly as possible in the right way. And as Cupid had mentioned as well too, as we are trying to provide those resources in a timely fashion and in the correct way, it's whatever resources we have available at the time, whether it is with open purchase orders, procurement cards, et cetera, but then following back with the finance department to ensure that we do have the exact new purchase orders that need to be created as well too. So we're trying to do that in parallel, but obviously getting the resources as quickly as possible is the main #1 priority. Who we work with the most is typically the operations section and more so with mass care. So as an incident like this would occur, we do know that sheltering operations would be stood up pretty quickly. Our role is to make sure that those shelters are properly operational, whether that is with the heating and cooling, the electric, the water service, everything that's needed to ensure that for a longer or shorter term stay, that is conducive for the occupants and the staff that's operating those facilities also. That would include working with, as Cupid had mentioned, with the Red Cross. At times, they will not operate without proper security, so we are providing that security service as well, too, just to make sure that the staff and the occupants are safe. It can include bedding, towels, clothing, anything that's needed for the occupants, food and water as well too. So we provide those services. There's a question about how we get the facilities in place. I think Councilmember Mulcahy as well too. So we do help to provide those rental trailers, whether that is for restrooms, porta potties, even showering and washer dryer services. We've provided that in the past as well too. Then making sure that the EOC, this function here within this building, the 24-hour operation that's repetitive here, we're taking care of the staff here. So anything that's needed, food, water, resources, we're also providing that just to ensure this operation can sustain in that fashion. We also handle, so as the event continues, we'll get a lot of requests for donations from the community, other organizations as well too. That is fantastic because sometimes resources, there's a competition, everyone's trying to get the same resource at the same time. So as getting the donation requests as well too, we manage those, we inventory those, we keep track of what we get and what we distribute, just to make sure that that's going good as well. And then for those that are outside in the field, so those that are doing the safety assessments, those that are providing direct services to the community, we'll also assist them as well too. We'll bring resources out to them in the field, or we'll have a central point. where they can come and obtain those resources. As quickly as we can stock them, they do go pretty quickly. So it's an ongoing effort to obtain and sustain those resources. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Walter. Could you just briefly talk about who you oversee in your branch?
Yes, so thank you. So it's a mixture of different city staffing within the different departments. Within logistics, we do have a personnel branch, so we do have a representative from either HR or OER that'll help us whether we need translation services or just bodies at a particular location to assist. We're able to get some in-house staffing through that mechanism. The main functions, though, do come from our facilities and fleet resources. So facilities, again, it's standing up the sheltering, it's getting the resources, getting the services. For fleet, because we do manage the emergency generators as well, too. So for a lot of these different sites, we want to make sure that as the utility service may be out, the continued operations will be reliant on the emergency backup systems. So refueling of those generators becomes very important. We have to make sure that we have the fueling stock and that we have the personnel to actually bring the fuel to refuel those areas. We also have the IT department as well too. So any type of IT services within the city that's needed, it's funneled through the logistics team in that manner.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to turn it to Maria. So what are the finance section coordinator's priorities in the first operational period following EOC activation? What are some other considerations you're looking at? And if you could, which I'm sure you will, talk about the importance of documentation.
Oh, my favorite topic. So again, my name is Maria Oberg. I am the finance director, or also the finance administration section coordinator. So the very first thing that finance does, again, we are not out there saving lives and facilities. The very first thing we do is set up a tracking code called a visible code in all of our financial systems, and we communicate that out to all fiscal staff throughout the organization so that from the get-go we can start tracking our time in our time keeping system, as well as in our financial management system on purchase orders, contracts, and everything like that. So we have a whole list of them all ready to go. All we need to do is activate it and slap a name on it, and you're good to go. The next item we do after making sure that we activate our department COOP plan, because obviously we need to continue to pay vendors, pay our staff, be able to collect money, make sure our bank is still up and running, or activate the redundant outside of the state of California sites for the banks. After that, we go in and we coordinate with all of these lovely vests here on spending limits, signature authorities for emergency purchase orders, etc. After that, we do actually tend to step away a little, get away from people so that they can do the important life-saving work. No one wants to hear from finance, but my biggest role in the EOC after the VIS code is to nag people. Every single shift, I will nag them. Fill out your time card, fill out your activity log, turn in your timesheet, turn in your activity log, save your documents, share documents with me, coordinate a lot with the city attorney's office on, we tend to do things quickly in an emergency. We don't always have the jurisdiction to do it. For example, in our exercises, we always want to evacuate the county hospitals. That's not our job. So if we're going to do that, I will coordinate with NORA staff to make sure we have the proper memorandum of understanding with the county, where we get clear direction from the county, you are now in charge. Otherwise, we're doing that on our own dime, which is a beautiful thing to do, but we want to recover from FEMA and other resources. So that's why the documentation question is so important. If you guys don't track and you don't put the numbers on and you don't give me the information, I can't claim the FEMA money. So for me, it's not a sprint. All these guys are sprinting over the first 3 days of an emergency. These guys are busy. I stay away. My marathon is coming because I will be working this with my staff for decades in some cases in cost tracking, dealing with FEMA, Cal OES, other partner agencies. So that's my role. But yes, I am not a popular person in these EOCs. Sorry, everyone.
But I do want to recognize the finance responsibility and roles. We are still dealing, believe it or not, with 2017 and some structures and some improvements. We're still trying to restore some of those facilities. We just had a meeting yesterday with FEMA to make sure we're tracking and making sure we get all the right documentation in place. It's a long-term effort. The 1989 earthquake did not close the FEMA books until the New Bay Bridge was built in 2000. 7, I think it was. So it was that long, these disasters stay open until that last project worksheet is closed. I do also want to recognize that we got, now correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, that we got acknowledgement from the federal government that in our COVID documentation, we had 0 findings, if I remember that correct.
That is correct. That is also part of it. So it takes a little time to prepare these project worksheets. We look very carefully at what we're doing and what we're allowed to do to make sure that it's claimable. And then to Ray's point, the goal is, of course, to ensure that it's foolproof, not just to get the initial disbursement of funds, but also in an audit. And those audits come 7 years after the close-up period. So for COVID, I don't anticipate we'll be audited until 2040 something, by the time I won't be here. So we need to make sure we have the documentation. So the fact that we got through the ARPA findings and the SLRF findings without any findings is a huge testament to how this organization set up policies and procedures. And that's a lot, thanks to everyone who was here before me. But we do a really good job. But it is a slow process, and it is very frustrating for everyone involved. And but it's a team effort. It's the only way we get through it. So.
And before we close out, I definitely want to recognize that there's been mention of other departments like airport, wastewater facility. They all have a part to play. We just didn't have enough time to represent all of those responsibilities and the other staff that support us. The planning section is primarily staffed by our library services. Why? Because they're used to research, used to documenting. So we try to use all the right resources in the emergency management organization to their fullest in terms of responding. And I want to thank everybody who's been here this morning to help share their knowledge, because it's that knowledge you see around the room is what makes our organization effective in response to emergencies. Thank you to all the departments that are here today and participating in the event. Lee, I think I'm turning it back to you.
Thank you, Ray. And I do want to emphasize, you know, as great as our plans are and the annexes are, the situations that are going to come at us and how we actually implement those and operationalize them, there is a bit of a secret sauce to it because they're somewhat unknown. And so while we do have those plans, everyone's creativeness and kind of those relationships, and that's honestly why we spent so much time at the very beginning too, just talking about the health, physical and mental health of the people that come into this room, because we need to be hitting on all cylinders to try and drive those changes for our community in those situations. So that's kind of a picture of the EOC. Like I said, you do not need to walk, like there's not a test later today, except for Councilmember Candelas. But it's a picture. As something happens, obviously, Angel Rios will be a very important point of contact with a disaster like the one we went over today. There'd probably be 1 or 2 people under him focused on the council liaison role. And so you'll hear a lot from Angel and a lot through Angel from Carolina's team on that information and what we need to get out of the community as a lean and flat of an organization that we run, and the access that Jennifer gives you all to these people on a regular basis. You don't need to know, oh, I need to call Rick Scott for this once the emergency happens because, you know, Willow Street is blocked. You'll be calling Angel and having those conversations so that these folks in these rooms can plan. So we'll give you Angel's social security number and home address and all of his cell phones, including the burner later today. But he's going to be an important contact for all of us as we move forward. So that is our show, and I'm going to hand it back to the boss.
Thank you, Lee and team. And just for the record, Maria, it's 2040 is only 15 years away, and I expect you to still be here. I would like you to still be here. We have a lot of confidence in our finance department, as you can tell. As we conclude today's City Council study session on emergency management, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who participated in these essential discussions and taking time away from your other jobs, but this is obviously critical for our city and our community. First and foremost, I want to thank our dedicated city staff again who play a vital role in responding to emergencies. You know, it's hundreds and hundreds of people that we call upon as public servants to show up and be there for our community on a day in and day basis, especially during emergencies. And their commitment to public safety and the well-being of our residents is very commendable. And it's crucial to remember that we are all first responders in times of crisis. Each one of us has a responsibility to ensure safety and security in our community. To our city council members, your role in supporting emergency response efforts is invaluable, as I stated earlier. I encourage you to trust the expertise of our emergency management organization and give them the space to perform their critical functions. Engage with your constituents and keep them informed, ensuring their concerns and needs are addressed promptly. Your ability to elevate issues and opportunities to our attention allows us to respond more effectively and efficiently, and it can't be understated. In times of crisis, the continuity of government is essential. Your steadfast leadership ensures that our city can navigate emergencies and transition seamlessly into recovery. By continuing to operate as a council during a crisis, making critical decisions on policy and budget, you demonstrate your commitment to serving our community. As we move forward, let us always prioritize the protection of our most vulnerable residents, as I mentioned earlier, and recognize their strengths as well, for those with the least are often the most resilient and resourceful. Our resilience as a city lies in our ability to work together as one team, united in purpose and action. By embracing a collaborative approach, we strengthen our capacity to overcome any challenge and build a safer, more resilient San Jose. Thank you all for your dedication and commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. Together, we will continue to prepare, respond, and recover from any emergency. And with that, I think we're ending early. And
Actually, we're ready for any questions.
any questions that you may have that you don't have to interrupt for. So yes, if not, if you have any more, I guess this Vice Mayor will facilitate that for us right now.
Councilmember Casey has a question.
Great presentation. Just if we could get an organizational chart with the individuals attached to the units that they're in, would be helpful for us for future reference. But other than that, everything was exceptional. Thank you.
Great.
Certainly, we can provide that, but the key thing I want to point out is it's the function that you need to understand, because it could be somebody else. Angel may be in the Bahamas and not available, so, you know, we do fill those roles.
Don't give him any ideas. Yeah. That was a big smile.
It was too big of a smile, Angel.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Mulcahy.
But I'll take advantage of it.
The mic's between you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, one thing is thinking about just organizations within our respective districts that, you know, assemble people on a regular basis. Do we have educational programs that we can deploy to such organizations, or expertise that we can help them go find so that they are prepared as they take care of their constituents? You know, schools kind of have their thing, but we have a lot of organizations that assemble lots of people.
The two ways we do it. The fire department has a lot of public outreach materials on how to prepare for emergencies. We do as well in our office. We actually have had some interns from the school, like our Crystal Ray students, who go back to their community and do presentations. So we have an access point to get volunteers out to help do those education points.
Okay, I'm going to squeeze in one more. So just thinking about, like, you know, it happens, right? And we all have a role to play. People are going to be reaching out to us. Do we have sort of a standard go-to, here's the city's, you know, we understand there's an incident, you know, here's the website, here's the phone number, here's the this, because if we're not funneling to one place and we don't know what that is, seems to me like an opportunity. Carolina.
You, Councilmember Mulcahy, I have an answer for you. During a catastrophic emergency such as this one, we would deploy what we call our emergency notification page. So on the city's landing page, you will have a big red banner, and that's where you want to send everybody to the city's landing page. And you want to send them to all of our official social media handles, City of San Jose, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, etc. We do monitor all others. We monitor Reddit, we monitor Nextdoor. And I'm going to take the opportunity to answer a question that was provided by Councilmember Campos, which I think is an important question. And she talked about misinformation. Within the EPIO, we have folks whose role is to monitor and review all social media and media, and we would be getting misinformation from you all. You would be calling Angel and saying, hey, our constituents are saying ABC. Our role would be then to deliver messages back to you, all of you, to help you dispel that misinformation. We would post on social. In previous events, we've also gone directly onto social media posts and corrected the misinformation on that post and asked people to follow the city for official information. The goal on that one is to, one, correct misinformation, and then highly encourage people to only follow the city for accurate, timely info. So we'd be relying on you just as much as we're just part of the job is monitoring for misinformation.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any other questions? Councilmember Campos.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I had a couple of questions. The first, Carolina, if you could please confirm that I heard correct. You said that there are 4 languages that we always ensure translation or just languages in general, right? Spanish, English, traditional Chinese, and sign language?
Vietnamese.
Oh, Vietnamese.
Yes, Spanish, English, Vietnamese, traditional Chinese, and then we would be ASL.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had, going back to the map where we got to see the evacuation route, I was just curious about the one before it maybe with the purple dots and the green. What is the color of the dots? Like what does that mean?
So this map representation is, so imagine that the blue is the evacuation zone. What this is representing, the red, is the gridlock we would experience because if you said, get out of town, that's what would happen naturally by people trying to get in their car, move. What this represents is establishing an organized approach. So we have zone 1, because this emergency moves from the south to the north. So the first blue marker would be zone 1, where the first impact zone would be. So move those people along first. Sequentially, then 2, 3, 4, 5. So those blues represent waypoints of where these zones would take place so that we have less people at the same time trying to get out on the roadways, and you see the reduction of the red.
Thank you. I'm assuming that this is with our current population, roughly 1 million people?
Correct.
And so have we done any practice, or do we plan to do any practice for 2026 when we hope to have many tourists in the area?
There's a whole component. There's this tool, and then fire also has a new tool called Genesis in terms of identifying evacuation points, zones also within our city of where the emergency happens, so we can specifically target an area where an alert or a warning needs to take place. These are new tools for us, so certainly between now and 2026, we have some plans to get organized and time to exercise and execute the concepts behind these.
Thank you. And one last question. So, I heard that at a time of crisis, it may be difficult to procure the items that we need, but as a government agency, do we have stronger procurement power in these situations?
We'll let logistics talk about that, but yes, if we work together.
Thank you, Councilmember Campos. Great question. So we did experience that in particular during COVID when the entire world was trying to compete for the same type of resources as well too. To the best of our abilities, because of the great relationships we built with our existing vendors, we had tried to make it where if we can be considered first, that was an option, and we were successful to a certain degree. Many times, though, it was a first-come, first-served scenario, and as best as they could try to prioritize us, it was just a matter of not enough at that time. So we did then start branching out into other avenues of who could provide that service to us, and we've even looked into international type of services as well too in supply chains, but during that time, that was the most difficult. Now, during this specific type of earthquake scenario, I guess the greatest help for us under that scenario is that the entire world is not impacted. So more of the mutual aid, more of the supply chain would be made more available to us. But that is what we've tried to do with certain vendors, even to even ask for a premium cost, could we be considered a priority client? And there's a little bit of back and forth with that as well too. So yeah, we do want to stay in the proper means of doing the procurement process, but we are looking at other avenues to try to get San Jose a little bit ahead of the game. So.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. This was very helpful and informational. Thank you.
Thanks. Maria, did you have a comment?
Just a little on the premium price. Yeah, that would get us the supplies probably a little faster, but it would not be FEMA reimbursable.
Good to know. Thank you. Councilmember Candelas.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody who's here, and Ray for putting together a study session today. I've taken various NIMS courses throughout, whether it's school or even my time in previous roles, having activated in the EOC, and know it's a challenge. And it's not just a challenge being called upon to do and learn a secondary skill set on top of everything else that you all have to do in your role in the city. So it's definitely something I appreciate and I value. So that's pretty much why I want to talk. I don't have any questions for anybody, but thank you. And I feel a little bit better knowing that the practice and the effort that's going into being prepared. Again, for the emergency that's hopefully not for a while, but but it's better to be prepared than not. So thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Then
I'm glad
go ahead,
Fran
Ray.
taught you well. Fran, please.
Then I'll finish. These microphones are really testy. I'll finish it up by thanking first all of you for being here and for sharing with us how the different departments respond in times of an emergency. It's quite reassuring. This is the third time I've been through this, and each time I learn a little bit more, but your confidence level is very reassuring to me to know that the right people are in charge and taking care of this work at the right time. It's really remarkable. Frankly, who isn't really prepared is the council up here, because we haven't been through the emergency of having to stand up a DDO, which would be a really good exercise to do, Ray, is for us to have to take it on and figure out how we're going to operate that. I'm also really mindful of this beautiful space that we're in and how Measure T tax dollars got us here. This is a beautiful space, and I want to comment about the mental health and the wellness component of this space. If you went back and you went to the break room, you see that there's a quiet room that staff can go in and sit and relax and sort of center themselves if they need to. I remember COVID pretty well. I was not part of the EOC, not really, and all of the work that you did had to be tremendously stressful on you individually, but also on your families. So I want to thank you also for, in times of a disaster, an emergency, that you all step in and your families are taking care of themselves on the side. And you may, in this scenario, have lost your house in the earthquake, yet you're getting in your car and you're going to the EOC and doing the work that you need to do. So on behalf of my colleagues, I thank you in advance. I hope we don't have an emergency, but I know we will. And I know that however it is, I'm really confident in the team here. So thank you all for all that you do, both at your city day job, but the job that you will do in the EOC when it's activated. And Ray, thank you for setting this up. This was really invaluable.
Welcome, and I believe we have to hold a moment for public comment. Is that right, Nora? Did I get that right?
Okay, then I will acknowledge, are there any members of the public who wish to speak? If not, then we stand adjourned. Thank you.